everyone. Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the current political situation in Brazil and governance. To wrap up, let's talk about how you can cast your vote consciously and with quality. Let's start the lesson.
We want to start by inviting you to reflect on the current political situation in our country. In recent years, we've gone through turbulent times in our politics. We've had many cases of corruption and a lot of comments from Brazilians saying they've lost hope and trust in the political class. But is now really the time to give up, folks? Could this be the perfect moment for us to shed light on the changes our country needs? Professor, what is the first reflection we can make about these events?
In any country in crisis, it's normal to see protests and demonstrations, a total discontent from the population regarding the behavior of politicians. Let's take a look at this. In a country in crisis, like Brazil, what is the share of blame between politicians and the population? We see that the role of the citizen doesn't end when they cast their vote. They also pass their demands to their representative in government, and often that representative looks out for their own personal interests instead of the interests of the community. In this case, there are certain issues we can highlight. But on the other hand, the politician is also not involved in public affairs, which means they aren't looking to improve and gain political education. So that's also a message. So in the end, who are the guilty ones? The voters and the politicians are to blame in this story. Yes or no? What do you all think? That's a point to reflect on. It's really interesting. Our course brought us forward to awakening, to political awareness. This is really important, folks. What else did our course offer us? It offered us the opportunity to act as agents of change, as transformers in society, and to engage actively. In other words, actively. We have to react to personal actions. What does that mean? Monitoring political actions so we can uphold the work that is submitted. Empowering ourselves with our rights and our duties is pretty much the definition of citizenship, which is an inherent quality of a person in exercising their rights and obligations, participating in political life as well. We see that the Ministry of Education is a pioneer of this initiative. This is really important. Start political education through schools, folks. And all these actions will definitely change the future of any country, including Brazil.
Second reflection. Why, Professor, is it not possible for a leader to fulfill the commitments made in their government plan?
Because there's a lack of quality in terms of legal foundation, which is the aspect of legislation. In the public political scene, it's very important to comply with and obey the legislation. Mismanagement, granting privileges, and the practice of corruption. An unprepared team, which means that the leader comes into government and brings a team that doesn't have the skills to develop and work on the roles that belong to the public scene. Opposing forces. Yes. Restrictive and obstructive forces appear, which makes government actions difficult. The lack of administrative skills. Generally, a leader has difficulties. The practice of administration, folks. The lack of negotiation skills. Here we also have a challenge. For the leader in working towards their goals and in communicating. For the opposition, what do they intend to do? He knows that the base of allies is with him, but he has difficulty communicating and gaining the support of the opposition. leadership hackers. Many times, the leader makes mistakes and then they fall, cut off from their own team. Personal interests are related to power. It's power, folks, always power. The politician is always looking to be in power.
So, what can we understand by governability, Professor?
Governability, in short, is the ability to govern alongside the Allied base, because we know the difficulties people have in negotiating with the opposition. So governability really happens alongside Allied base. And to govern means having the ability to manage public assets and public services, negotiations, skills. What does that mean? Offering positions, getting projects approved in legislation and execution. We call it a bargaining chip. This refers to the exchange of political interests and support. So, through this course, you saw how to identify the most qualified candidates to govern effectively, and that citizens should have greater political participation to ensure the well-being of society. Part of the political game.
Saw how to identify the most qualified candidates to govern effectively, and that citizens should have greater political participation to ensure the well-being of society. We chose to talk about governance at the end of this course, precisely to highlight the need to understand the fundamentals of politics so that we can vote correctly. What does it mean to vote correctly? We need to care not only about the people we choose to represent in government, but also by analyzing the projects and programs advocated by the candidate, studying whether we identify with their ideals. When we talk about values, folks, there's no right or wrong. That's very personal. Right or left, there's no better or worse. There's identification. Everyone thinks in their own way. The priorities are different for each group or segment of society. So it's necessary to have coherence in the choice of representatives, both in legislation and in the executive branches, regarding the purposes defended by both. For example, if we take advantage of candidates' project for the greater good, we need to vote for a candidate for the chamber who is not against that project. Doesn't that mean you have to vote for someone from the same party? Okay. Because many times people don't pay attention to this detail, which is very important, and it can compromise the governability of the elected manager. That's why, folks, we want to end this course by leaving this message for you. Being a citizen is much more than just voting on election day. It's about participating, knowing, and being interested in what happens in our city, state, and country. And most importantly, to take our power to provoke change. We need to have the society we want and receive quality public services.
Thank you very much for being with us. And congratulations for being another agent of change in society. We at Conquest School hope to see you again in our upcoming courses. And until then,